So I watched Indiana Jones, and I realized that I don't really have that much to say about this movie that isn't spoilers, besides one thing that's, like, completely out of the movie. So I'm just gonna get that out of the way. This movie had a $300 million budget. And hey, I know that big blockbusters can gross like $600 million. Spider-Verse is doing it right now. But you cannot, like, bank on that. You can't put out a movie that is $300 million and just trust that it will work, because it's not. This movie is doing okay, but it's actually doing badly. It would, if it was a different movie, it would be doing okay. If it had a $100 million budget, it actually would be making up its budget. But it has a $300 million budget, so this movie grossing over $100 million is like bombing. It's just kind of crazy how terrible this summer has been for movies. We had Elemental bomb, we had The Flash bomb. Transformers I don't think is doing well either. I'm not sure, but I don't think so. These movies are bombing so hard, and this movie just set itself up for failure. However, I don't think that this is like the end of movie theaters because everything is bombing. I mean, we got Barbie and Oppenheimer upcoming, which I think are both going to do well. It's just like, wow. These are some really unlucky movies going on right now. But with that out of the way, we're going to get into the spoilers. So, here's your warning, 3, 2, 1. We're going to go. So, I'm going to start with my positives for the movie. I'm going to be a nice guy, and I think my first positive is probably the opening. The opening to this movie is pretty long. It's an opening sequence, not an opening scene, because it goes on for like 20 minutes, maybe even 30. I'm honestly not entirely sure, but it was pretty long. This whole flashback train set piece is pretty cool. I do think it's very intense and enjoyable. It's actually one of the best scenes in the movie, if not the best. I don't love de-aged Harrison Ford, but in general, de-aging is just kind of an awkward process that never really looks great. I think we haven't reached the point of, like, good de-aging yet, but for the current place we are in with de-aging, it honestly looks really good. It looks quite good. And in general, I don't think it was really that distracting. Maybe in that very first scene where he's been taken hostage, but as soon as they put him in action, it's a pretty good way to distract you from the fact that you're looking at a 40-year-old, 80-year-old. I also think that the villain introduced in this scene is another pretty big positive. I think he works quite well. He's not the best, but, like, you know, he's slightly intimidating. I like the idea of him just being another Nazi, because a guy beating up Nazis is, like, clearly the coolest thing ever. So that's cool. I like that. But when you think about the positives for a bit, they kind of start to fall apart. Because these big positives with the movie are the parts that most feel like they're ripping off the other movies. I'll level with you, I am not like a huge super fan of Indiana Jones at all. I've only seen 2 other movies outside of this one in the series. I have seen Raiders of the Lost Ark, a great movie, and I've seen Last Crusade, a great movie. And the funny thing is, those 2 positives I just mentioned, well, in Last Crusade, there's a train sequence that is arguably better and very iconic, and so it's kind of hard to ignore that it sort of feels like they were just ripping the train sequence from that movie. I mean, like, if I search Indiana Jones train sequence into Google, I think I know which scene is going to come up. And hey, there's an off chance that it's just a coincidence and they just wanted to do another train sequence, but I don't know. I'm suspicious. And then the villain, Voller. I mean, Nazi obsessed with cool artifact that he searches for throughout the entire movie, acquires, and captures Indiana Jones. Then he uses the artifact, and it ultimately destroys him and kills him, while Indiana escapes unscathed because he understands that these artifacts are cursed. This is like the exact same thing that happened in Raiders. And again, I mean, it's not to an exact T. Like, again, it could just be a coincidence, but again, I'm suspicious. I feel like the parts of this movie that worked the best are just the ones that are the least original. And the fact that this movie had essentially one job, which was to prove that it needed to exist, because, like, it definitely did not prove that before. Nobody was really asking for another Indiana Jones movie. Like, the one job was to do something new, to be original, and to prove that it needed to exist. And holy shit, it did not do that at all. Like, not even close. From then on, most of the movie is just kind of like okay or bad. When it comes to the other characters, we have our main three: Indiana, Helena, and Teddy. So Teddy is just like this random kid who is constantly in danger throughout this entire movie, and I do not know why he is here. Why are they bringing a kid on this mission? What is his thing? Why does he need to be here? He's not a very compelling character. He's like, okay, but the whole time I'm just wondering, why haven't they let him leave? They bring this kid on this mission, which endangers him, and also does not concern him because he finds them in an alley with like a golf cart, or whatever that thing is. I don't know. Why is he here? I also, to some extent, am wondering why Indy is here, because, like, he works sometimes. I think that Harrison Ford is still good at playing this character, but, like, there's moments, like, in the cave where he's trying to climb up this cliff, and he's struggling to even do that, that you realize, wow, he really is just an old man. Why are they making a movie about this guy? Like, sure, it's all fun and games with how old he is, and they can joke about it all the time, but why is he doing this? He's an old guy. He's like 80. Just let him go to sleep in peace. And to round out the trio, you have Helena, who I kinda hate. The girl, to me, just kinda feels disrespectful. I mean, like, there's the moment after they escape the ship, and Indy is just like, some guy just died. I liked him. And she kind of cares a little bit. Like, it's pretty bad when this character is completely believable in the child endangerment thing. Like, I totally believe that she would endanger that child. So our main characters are an endangered child, an old man, and a lady who's just kind of pissing me off every once in a while, and in general, I don't really enjoy their dynamic. But I think the thing that really did not make me like these characters together is the ending. So I think that like 90% of people going into this movie thought they were going to kill Indiana Jones in this movie and just give the title to this new girl, and it seems like they're going to do that. He gets shot in the caves at one point, and it seems like they're just straight up going to kill him there, but I didn't think so. They keep him around a little longer, and when they travel back in time and the villain crashes his plane and explodes, Indy is like, I want to stay here. He is now in, like, BC, like 200 BC or whatever, and he is a part of history. Even though I think that killing his character is kind of lame after bringing him back for not a very good reason, I actually kind of like this ending. I feel like it is a decent way for him to die, is for him to be able to just go to like a completely different period of time that he has studied and get to live there until he dies. That's pretty cool. But Helena, this stubborn asshole, doesn't let him. She punches him and then brings him back to the present time. She just punches his ass. And that's so mean. It is such a selfish thing to do, but I think it's more of a plot device just so that they could bring back Marion. And that's pretty lame too. Just in general though, it really makes me hate her character. Why did she do that? The final talk with Marion is a fine ending scene. I guess it works for me. But like, I don't know. I just don't like how this movie tied things up. It felt very messy, like they were just trying to get to this scene with Marion. And that's what kind of distracted me the whole time. I don't know. Again, I'm not an Indiana Jones superfan, so I don't know how deserved this ending was, as I'm assuming they're not gonna do another movie. But I don't know. I mean, I can't trust them anymore. They keep bringing this guy back. Everything in this movie just doesn't feel deserved. It needed to feel deserved, and it does not feel deserved at all. I have a couple more notes, one of them being that the main theme in this movie is kind of overused and underused at the same time. It pops up at random places where it really feels like it shouldn't be, but it's weird that they only play like a couple notes. Like there are moments where they just play that first like dun 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 and then continue with the theme with like a different score. It's really awkward. I don't know what they were doing there. And also, another kind of funny technical detail, I just like how the subtitles are written. When characters are talking in different languages, you get some very strange subtitles. You get moments like a character saying, "We're going to die," and "die" is all capitalized with 3 exclamation points after it. It's like so goofy and really distracting. But I guess that about wraps things up. This movie was, like, not really that good. In fact, in the process of making this review, my score I think has actually lowered from a 6 to a 5 out of 10. Just noticing those annoying comparisons where it feels like this movie is trying its best to just, like, exist, satisfy fans, and also, like, justify itself existing, but it fails so hard. It just falls flat on its face. It's not necessarily bad because I didn't hate my experience with this movie. I just, like, why? Why did this need to be made? And the answer? No reason. I'm sorry, I think we're done with Indiana Jones. I think that's all. Sorry, Harrison Ford. I appreciate that you love this character way more than you love Han Solo. That's pretty funny. I think we're done here. Let's pack it up. Let's just, please, let's not keep dragging this.